Welcome to the Dean's List, engaging conversations at the intersection of entrepreneurship, artistic expression, and holistic health. Experience wellness in full color, where fashion, beauty, and art blend with body, mind, and soul. Embark on a journey that dresses your aspirations in style, paints your life with beauty, and sculpts your well-being in every dimension. This is the Dean's List, where inspiration is always in session. Welcome to the Dean's List, where we uncover the transformative power of wellness, creativity, and entrepreneurial insight. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today I'm thrilled to have Laura Ivan, the visionary behind HeartSpace. Laura's journey from battling a debilitating autoimmune disorder to embracing alternative healing has truly touched hearts. Her innovative approach blends creative expression with holistic wellness, inspiring many on their path to rejuvenation. We love rejuvenation. Join us as we delve into how Laura is reshaping the world of wellness and making a heartfelt impact on personal and professional growth. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Alison. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you're so excited. All right, so let's dive in. We got a lot of fun questions to go through. Can you begin with just your journey? And because I know that you had a very successful career in interior design, and then, you faced some pretty life-changing health challenges. So I want to hear about that journey a bit, and then also just any pivotal moments that come to mind that really influenced your decision to explore alternative wellness.
I love that question. Okay, so I was born in Romania. Just to give you a little bit about my information about my background, I moved to Los Angeles almost 15 years ago. I was, like you were mentioning, I was I moved here for a big dream at the time, and that was becoming an interior designer, of working in the interior design industry and all of that. And with a lot of hard work, I've managed to make it happen. In fact, ever since I was a kid, I was always motivated to keep pushing the limits of my life, my limitations. So as a kid back in Romania, I grew up with a lot of American movies, and many of those movies were shot in Los Angeles, the Hollywood industry. So ever since I was a little girl, 4 or 5 years old, I was like, oh my God, maybe one day I'll get to be in LA. And one day that did happen. And after I moved to Los Angeles, I was like, oh my gosh, if only one day I only managed to open up my own interior design firm, then I would be really happy. And, and then I managed to create just that. And so throughout my life, I looking back at myself as I'm sharing all of this with you, I'm realizing that although from an ambition perspective, it's all great, it's all good. I grew, I got to evolve a lot. But at the same time, I feel like in a way it was coming from a place of lack, meaning that my whole life, the reason that pushed me forward was the fact that I wasn't really satisfied, that I wasn't really happy with where I was at in that present moment, such as being grateful for my own native country, being grateful for all the things. And that's just one example. Just overall, being grateful for all the things that I was currently having in my life.
Yeah.
And being if anything, more present with the things and people and whatever, houses, homes, or whatever it was that I was having at that time. And soon enough, within, I don't know, about after 10 years of living in Los Angeles or so, at the peak, actually, of my interior design career, I was just laying in bed one night watching television, and out of nowhere, I had this very weird sensation in my right hand, and it gradually expanded throughout the entire arm, and it was hurting and it was painful. It was hot, it was burning, like a sensation like I've never experienced in my life up until that point.
Yeah.
And it slowly started expanding all over my body within months. At some point, letting me partially debilitated. Like I wasn't able to walk properly anymore. I was in tremendous, excruciating pain. At some point, my hands were so swollen and painful, like every joint, every little, part was so bad that it was even hard for me to hold a pen in my hand and write. So, I mean, you can only imagine, all the things that I fought for in my life up until that point had to take a pause, starting with my, so desired career, work. And it definitely started changing my priorities. And if before my priority was to keep growing, but growing in a way which was kind of like outside of myself, growing more in a materialistic way. And by materialistic, I don't really mean finances, but just, in acquiring things. It could be even like about acquiring, a title or extending education or whatever that might look like. So, if those were my priorities before, this weird illness, that installed in my body, after it, my priorities shifted towards me, towards myself. And to my despair at the time, all the medical treatments that my doctors proposed, none of them worked. So and my condition was only getting worse. And I was just desperate. I was like, what the heck is happening? Like nobody in my family had ever had that kind of stuff. And I was just absolutely scared and desperate. And my whole life, everything I had built up to that point was crumbling.
Right.
And one of my friends recommended me that I start looking into alternative methods of healing, and at that point, I was just willing to
try anything,
try out anything, and that's when I started reading a lot of books. I started educating myself a little more on the topic which I was completely oblivious to. I was just starting to learn, and you hear so many people talk about their self-healing journeys, how they were suffering from, I don't know, like all sorts of illnesses, and chronic. And I mean by that chronic illness, and how they managed to heal themselves. And, but it never really, those stories never really registered in my brain, up until I had that very need myself. And that's when I started learning that there's a strong connection, that there's a direct connection between trauma, psychological trauma, mental health, emotional health, and physiological and physical health, especially when it comes to chronic illness. I mean, obviously, if you twist your ankle or something, you don't want to meditate. The first thing you want to do, or, like whatever, the first thing you want to do is go to the emergency room and see a doctor. But when it comes to chronic illness, as I've learned on my own skin, are at least my doctors, they all the only solutions they were able to provide me with were more kind of like band-aids to numb the symptoms, to numb the pain. But they weren't really able to come up, I mean, first of all, with a clear diagnosis. My official diagnosis was spondyloarthritis, which is a form of an autoimmune disorder. But when it comes to actually healing that, to my despair, I learned that unfortunately right now, we don't really have any official sorts of, solutions or treatments, medically speaking. And so I just immersed myself completely. I mean, I wasn't really able to do much at that time other than read anyway,
right,
or watch TV. So I chose, okay, I'm going to start reading. And I deeply immersed myself in this kind of literature. I started getting more acquainted with some, really amazing researchers, doctors, neuroscientists, etc., and all sorts of, organizations who actually have been conducting these kinds of studies and helping people for quite a few decades now. And ultimately, this is how I ended up attending several meditation retreats, wellness, mindfulness retreats, in which I learned, I mean, first of all, they were a great opportunity for me to start learning more about myself, about my own psyche, and about the way I'm wired. And slowly, the more I started meditating, and the more I started learning about, just the importance of our nervous system and the direct relationship between our heart to our brain and the domino effect throughout our entire body and nervous system going from this place. It was, I found it absolutely fascinating. And that's when I discovered some meditations and breathing techniques. So super easy. That was it, which helped my body relax.
Okay.
I realized as I started learning about this that throughout my life, I never really was in a relaxed state. And I understood that all of my motivations and ambitions and dreams and goals were actually coming from a place of lack and the place of fear, and always chasing, something else or working because I had to. Like even when I think back to the main motivator for which I used to work and to make so many hours. I mean, obviously, I love what I do, and I used to love what I do. But beyond that, there was always the financial factor, right? Like we got to work because we got to pay the bills, and oh my God, and we got to pay the student loans, and we got to pay the car, and like all of that kind of stuff. And if I skip a day at work, then I might lose that stability, that, so on a very good reason, it is very stressful. Because we do have, huge responsibilities. But somehow I feel like I kind of went unconscious, and I've allowed those fears to influence my decisions. And the more I started learning how to self-regulate my nervous system, how to calm down my mind, how to nurture regenerative feelings, such as feeling safe, learning how to feel safe, learning how to feel loved, appreciation, care, etc. I started changing my mindset. And from that place, my attitude in everything that I was doing in my life started to change as well. So whereas before I was, working from a place of lack, now I was starting to work from a place of love, because I was loving those things, whether it was art or design or something else. And even showing up in a different way in the relationships with my family, with my friends, in my personal relationships, etc. And anyway, so I started meditating every day. Sometimes when I was feeling really sick, I was meditating even 5 hours a day.
Wow.
And adding in some breathwork on top of that.
Yeah.
So I went all in. And after, within, I would say a year or so of daily practice, but again, keep in mind that I was, stuck in bed for most of that time. I started feeling better. And with I had refused at that time, the standard medications that my doctors gave me, because they weren't, I was getting side effects. And, and with the power of meditation and learning, it wasn't just the meditation alone, but learning how to use those tools to actually create, consistent changes within my body. Practicing, for a long time, I started, seeing results. And at first, I just started feeling, more peaceful and more balanced emotionally. And then I've noticed, getting different chains of thoughts in my head, just different, more positive thoughts. And then soon enough after that, I started noticing changes in my physical body as well.
That's amazing.
Gradually, the pain started to subside. The inflammation, the stiffness, was starting to fade away. I was starting to be able to walk outside my home again in the beginning for only 10 minutes. And then the 10 minutes, turned into half an hour. And then the half an hour turned into 2 hours. And up to the point where today, right now, I'm able to, just lead my life normally, healthily, just as I used to do before. So I was just so fascinated with these techniques. And all of these teachings that I decided to start studying them in more depth. I actually started studying with the HeartMath Institute, which are the pioneers when it comes to the research behind heart-brain coherence. This organization was actually founded in 1991, if I remember correctly, and it's an association of doctors and scientists and all sorts of researchers who are studying the direct link by using scientific techniques, between heart coherence, heart-brain coherence, and physical health.
Okay.
So, not only that, but beyond my excitement and fascination with my discovery, I was mind blown at the time. I was like, how come nobody really knows about this? I mean, there's a few people. Most of the times, from my own experience, the people who are immersing themselves the most into these practices are the ones who are very desperate, just like I was. But how come not more people know about this? Like, how come this kind of information is not more mainstream? And so from this perspective, I felt revolted.
Oh.
I was like, why? Like, why? I mean, yeah. So I decided to not only to become a certified HeartMath trainer, but to also start from there to start sharing these practices and this material, this information with the world, with everybody else, with all the other people who are out there struggling in search for answers. So this is ultimately what gave birth to HeartSpace.
Right.
And yeah.
I love that you've just basically answered like 5 questions in one. That was amazing, Laura. That was so good.
Oh, that's
amazing. I was like, she's just doing it, so I'm just going to let her flow. But I do want to, so I think there's a couple things before we dig into HeartSpace, which we definitely have to talk about. I think it's really interesting. Obviously, you had a lot of time to dig into all these new modalities like meditation and breath work. But how difficult was that? Like, was it an easy transition just because you felt so desperate for just something to work? So you're like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to commit to it. Because I think that's the thing for a lot of people that may be perhaps experiencing something chronic, but they don't really know how to like take that step, or they're too apprehensive about it. So was that challenging for you? Or was it just, you know what? Was it like a discipline thing for you where you just said, I'm going to sit down every day. I'm going to do this for, 10 minutes a day. Maybe I'm going to build from that. Like, what was that process like for you? Do you remember?
In my case, I just refused to surrender to that diagnosis.
Yep.
And I just refused to surrender to that potential outcome.
Right.
Like, looking ahead of me, I just refused to believe that that's what my life was going to look like for the rest of my life, which was pretty much my doctor's prediction.
Ooh.
Yeah. So to me, it was just a strong refusal to surrender to that outcome, and a strong desire to change.
Yeah. And then once you started, like, I mean, do you recall like your first week of meditation? Did you know, like, the first day that you meditated, you're like, I'm into this, like, this feels right, or did it take a week? Did it take a month? Like, when did it really strike you, or you're like, this is something I can do, and this is something that I already feel is going to impact me in a positive way?
I love your questions. That's such a brilliant question. So when I first started meditating, I had no idea what I was doing. And in the beginning, in my first meditations, I was like, what the heck is this stuff? How is this supposed to help me out? I was very skeptical about it.
Sure.
What convinced me wasn't the theory. It wasn't the words. It wasn't the books. It wasn't the data, even though we have plenty of data proving, that it actually works. But it's none of that stuff that convinced Laura that it could actually work for me.
Yeah.
What convinced me was the experience. And to be more exact, in one of the meditation retreats that I attended, I had a beautiful experience during one of the heart-focused meditations. I had a feeling, a sensation, unlike anything else I had ever experienced before.
Interesting.
And it certainly came from the center of my chest as I was laying down with my eyes closed and meditating. It was a big group meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally felt, I don't know, like just huge rushes of energy, kind of like how it feels when you're cold and you feel, or when you're listening to your favorite song and you're getting goosebumps, but this feeling was like kind of like that, but multiplied by a million.
Okay.
And it came from the center of my heart. And along with that, it came like, it was kind of like an electrical feeling. And along with it, it came a lot of love, but not love like the one, I don't know, like we feel on a regular basis. I was overwhelmed. I was feeling so much love that at some point I didn't really think I could handle it anymore.
Wow.
It wasn't just love, but it was more of a state of being.
Yeah.
And along with it also came more regenerative feelings such as gratitude and appreciation, but it was a very expansive experience, unlike anything else I had ever felt up until that point.
That's a pretty good PSA for meditation. Yeah.
And it was definitely one of the most sacred moments of my life so far.
Wow.
And that's what convinced me that this is how that's how I was going to heal myself. So it wasn't, again, the theory, the information, the literature. It was the experience that convinced me. And ever since that day, that's when I really started getting at it. Yeah.
When did that retreat happen? Like how far into your practice?
Couple of months after I started.
Okay. So like you dropped in and then pretty quickly you had a pretty transformative experience. So that's a very interesting, it's serendipitous from a timing standpoint, because that's pretty fast in the sense of, a couple months into just arriving at meditation being an option. And then that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. Okay. All right. So we know that you're HeartMath certified, and I want to talk a little bit about HeartSpace. So you wanted this message to reach more people. You saw that there was kind of a void in, like, why don't more people know about the heart-brain connection? And so let's talk a little bit about like the core principles behind the HeartSpace environment, and maybe also like how you structure your platform to provide support and to provide, practical advice to people that are dealing with maybe similar chronic health challenges.
A year ago plus a few months, I launched HeartSpace.care, which is an educational platform. It's if you go online on HeartSpace.care, you will find a lot of resources, along with more details about my recovery journey, but also resources, books, and all sorts of things, even music, meditation music, and a lot more of the scientific data and research, all that kind of stuff. So this is what HeartSpace it's all about. It's this educational platform, in which I'm literally downloading, everything that I managed to learn so far, along with all of the methods, techniques, etc., which worked best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And HeartSpace also represents, my brand, my concept, my mission. It goes way beyond just an app or a website or some sort of online presence. In the end, it just symbolizes my offerings, my services, which are now open to anyone who's seeking for help and for alternative methods of recovering or reversing chronic illness, whether it be it being emotional or physical, etc. It's about basically me just bringing my services to in the format of one-on-one trainings or public workshops, corporate trainings. I feel like our offices are in much need of learning how to handle burnout, productivity, team communication, all of that. So that's a service I currently launched as well. And more to come in the future.
Oh, I bet. So, okay. So who, like, if we could paint the picture of someone coming to your site right now, what would that person look, how would you describe the person that's coming to the HeartSpace website? Is it someone that is afflicted with something, or is it just someone, I mean, it's probably everyone in between, right? Like, I mean, it's every person's site, but in your mind, when you were really setting out to create this, this knowledge center, who was your target audience?
Somebody who is not willing to give up on themselves and give into their current challenges, whether it being physical illness or emotional distress, or any other sorts of system dysregulation. That's the kind of person who is open to something new, and also somebody who is committed to doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Right. I'm curious, did you have any, I mean, obviously when you are battling a chronic health condition, that's an issue in and of itself. That's a challenge. But once you discovered meditation and breathwork and these other modalities, were there any challenges that you recall with that? And I guess the thing that I think about is how difficult or how easy was it for you to like walk into this new chapter of your life, given how much time and energy and dreaming that you did related to the life as, interior designer, Laura?
I mean, first of all, when I started, even after I had that amazing experience at that meditation retreat, it's not like all of my meditations moving forward and all of my experiences were boom. Sometimes I even hated doing them because I wasn't in the mood of doing them. I was feeling either tired or whatever. And so there were definitely a lot of challenges, and especially when you're feeling sick and you're in pain and your body aches, like every inch of your body. Sometimes the last thing you feel like doing is tapping into, nice, happy music. Like it's such a discrepancy between, how I was feeling and the meditations, and then trying to find gratitude in the midst of all of that.
Right.
So first of all, I definitely experienced challenges from that perspective, and slightly with each day, with each meditation, each training, basically, I was shifting my perspective, the view, the angle, the lenses through which I was seeing the world, up to a point when, where I did start feeling gratitude, even when my body was really sick, even when, I was starting to find reasons to be alive in spite of the pain that I was going through.
Right.
So, the challenges came, so that I would say that was, let's call it, my past self and my new self. So there were a lot of challenges in when, in the journey of my future self being reunited with my past self.
Yeah.
And even after that union, which in a way, I mean, it goes on forever. But even, the closer I started to get to my future goals, to my dreams, to my healing, my recovery, all of that, there are a lot of changes happening psychologically, emotionally, and overall, I was starting to change as a person. My personality started changing. I realized, for example, that I was terrible at setting out boundaries. And I'm still learning, even nowadays, how to be, more, and it was definitely scary because in this process of change, my core values started to change. Or actually, better said, I started listening and acting out from my core values more and less from my mind. And the moment I took the executive decision of taking more heart-based decisions in my life. That's when, to answer your question, to get the point of your question, that's when things started to get really scary for me. That's when the effects of this change started to feel uncomfortable, because I was like, okay, I'm choosing from now on to do my best to live, from my heart as much as possible. And to the best of my abilities.
Right.
But at the same time, that was also pretty much a brand new, undiscovered, territory to me. And as I was starting to walk in it, of course, it was scary. It feels scary when we stop taking decisions and actions and choices in our lives from a different mindset, from a new mindset. Things which, I started even not talking to some of the people I used to, seek approval from in the past. Like, just to give out a random example, like in the moment I started, to stop being a people pleaser and to, that's when it started to get also very uncomfortable for me. If this answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very honest answer of just how uncomfortable periods of change can be, especially when, it's like you're the butterfly and you're undergoing the transformation. So yes, I think that was very beautifully said, Laura. Yes. Okay, I am curious too, given your background in interior design, given your creative background, did that background influence your approach to wellness, your approach to healing at all? Do you think that those things connected in some way?
Yes, even though this information and these practices, some of them are ancient, right? But I feel like they're all being filtered through every heart that shares them further with the world. And it's the same for this heart as well. And I mean, first of all, we were just speaking of change. This has been certainly a scary change for me in the past. First of all, deciding to listen to my heart and to make this transition from interior design to health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of public speaking, I used to be such an introvert, and I still am. So this was and still is one of my fears that I'm conquering as I'm stepping more and more into this role. Before, as an interior designer, I didn't really have to, it was very highly creative, but less of, communicating those ideas. I was illustrating my ideas, not verbally, but, in a different form, in the visual format.
Right.
However, the artistic factor was always there. And I feel like it's the my artistic talent that's certainly influencing my work with HeartSpace, especially when it comes to my public events, the workshops that I'm doing, which are open to everyone, in person, live. I feel like that's when the designer and the builder in me steps in, because they are certainly highly immersive experiences, especially also when it comes to the visual factor. Some of the meditations that I'm designing myself, I am feeling inspired to launch a new set of workshops in which the meditation part is supposed to be done both with eyes closed and eyes open. And when you open your eyes, you would be flooded by beautiful visuals and colors and color therapy and all sorts of things. So, and I learned about color therapy and the impact of colors over our states from my interior design career. So there's definitely some, interconnectiveness there.
That's awesome. And then maybe there's at some point going to be HeartSpace interior design.
I'm open. Let's I'm surrendering it to the unknown.
Right. Like I think about, like feng shui and just like how different designers take in different things, but I don't know that I've ever heard an interior designer talk about designing with the heart in mind, or like creating an environment to optimize for your heart. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily know what that would look like exactly, but who better than you to take that on? I mean, I would be very eager to see what that sort of home or office looks like if you were the one helming. This is a true heart space environment, right? Like, I like that. Anyway, okay.
And who knows, maybe our next podcast, I'll come back to you soon enough, and we'll do another one on that.
Okay. All right. I like it. Okay. So I asked this of everyone. I want to know, what does wellness mean to you, especially now? What does wellness mean to you?
To give you a shorter answer, because at least one, I would say that wellness right now, to me, one of its meanings is certainly having the courage to change yourself, first of all, and through yourself, through the power of your own example, of starting to create some sort of ripple effect around you in your external environment, in your world, and ultimately making positive changes outside of yourself as well.
That's a beautiful statement. The first thing that, as you were saying that, in my brain, just so you can look into my brain right now, I was thinking to myself, what if the whole world operated from a heart space sort of, frame? Like, right? Like with the whole world. Wow, what a world it would be, right? Anyway, that's the tangent of my brain at that moment.
That's a beautiful question. And everybody else who's listening to this conversation is more than welcome to tap into that question and to start imagining and illustrating in their minds, in their hearts, what kind of world that would be.
A wonderful world. Cue the music. Okay. Curious, Laura, what are your daily like wellness non-negotiables? So, for instance, things that you're doing, maybe it's like every morning when you wake up, or maybe it's throughout the day, but what are the things that you feel are requirements where if you don't do them, you still feel okay, but it's not as good as if you could check them all off your list?
Being in touch with my mom, staying connected to my mom. I feel like our relationship in the last few years changed so much for the best, for the better. She's my rock. She's my biggest cheerleader, and she's been supporting me so much throughout this entire time. So I'm so grateful to have her in my life. Beyond that, I would say just trying as much as I can to be conscious and self-aware, to be self-aware of my emotional states and thoughts that are running through my head. Self-awareness, because in the end, all of these techniques, whether it's breath work or meditation, in the end, they're designed to retrain ourselves. Just like you're training a dog, we're basically retraining our bodies. We're literally creating a new baseline. Which ultimately facilitates a different operational system within our bodies. So self-awareness, no matter what my daily practice would look like, in the end, all of these practices are designed to help us be more centered, self-aware, and conscious.
Yes. Do you start the day with like a specific breakfast? Do you exercise at all? Is there anything else that you incorporate into your daily life that you think has enhanced your wellness?
Heart-focused breathing, which is the base technique. It's the foundation for all the HeartMath methods. It's called heart-focused breathing. And if you would like to, maybe this would be a beautiful way to actually end our conversation whenever you're ready for it.
Okay.
I practice heart-focused breathing first thing when I open my eyes. I practice it throughout my day, and it's the last thing I do before I go to sleep.
I think that's a great gift to give everyone. Yes, I love that idea. Okay, we'll close with some good breathing instruction. I like that. Okay, so how do thinking now about HeartSpace, how are you going to measure the success of what this is? And have you already received any feedback from people that have engaged with the platform? Perhaps also, maybe there's like an interesting healing story from someone. I'm not sure, but yes, I guess let's start with just, how do you measure success, and then perhaps any stories or any feedback that you've received to give.
And there's actually, to your point, there's actually a lot of stories and testimonials posted on heartspace.care for anyone who's curious to hear more about this. Overall, I would say the main results and the most common result that I'm noticing from both my one-on-one sessions or group workshops are a huge shift in people's emotional states. And I'm hearing many of them sharing that they were having such a rough day or even such a rough year so far. And after experiencing these methods, even after a 2-hour workshop, which is just 2 hours, they've managed to have huge shifts in their emotional states. If before they were feeling, let's say, burnt out or really emotionally depleted, drained, desperate, sad, unsafe, super stressed out, whatever it was, they're all telling me that they're feeling after the sessions more calm, more centered, and more at ease. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
So, I mean, yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of like, what you're imagining for HeartSpace in general, so if you're not measuring from the bottom line, is it just that you're measuring based on how many people that you're affecting?
Yes. Yeah. And throughout the results in the end, I would say the success for me stands in the results and and the amount of positive change that it can bring to people.
Okay, and then now that you've been in the wellness world for a bit now, how do you address skepticism, or how do you address doubts? Because obviously some people can be pretty resistant to alternative wellness. So how do you navigate that, or do you just? How do you navigate that?
I was one of those people, big time. And what convinced me the most to even attend a meditation workshop, in the first place, was the scientific data behind it.
Right.
I don't think I would have felt comfortable or safe, joining such a gathering without, my brain really need the tangible proof, you know. And there's plenty of that right now. There's, thank God, more and more people and organizations who are starting to run similar studies. So that is what convinced me the most. Yeah. And this is what I would offer to anyone who would be interested, but is kind of skeptical, but it's a great starting point.
Here's the data, right? Yeah, I love that. Can't argue the data, right? It's like, it's right there. Okay, we're gonna do a quick fire, and then there's only a couple other questions, and then we'll do maybe a quick breathing.
Focus breathing.
Cool. Okay. All right. So for the quick fire, just answer first thing that comes to mind, the best of your ability. Okay. It should be fun. Some of the questions, anyway. All right. We'll just go for it. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Favorite color?
Black.
Ooh, okay. What was the first job, like the first paying job that you ever had that you remember?
Working for my dad.
Cool. Okay. Favorite cuisine?
Mediterranean.
Ooh, good choice. Favorite country that you've traveled to?
Austria.
Cool. Favorite song that comes to mind that makes you happy?
Favorites. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I just got a list instantly of like 100 songs.
Name 5, whatever.
I really love the Beatles. Imagine.
Great song. What's the one app that you cannot live without?
Sol. S-O-L.
Cool. What's the one word that you would use to describe your business journey?
Love.
Oh, if you could have any entrepreneur, as a mentor for a day, one day, who would it be?
Wendy Posner.
Amazing. Cool. Shout out Wendy. Okay. What is a book that has significantly influenced your mindset?
Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
It's a good one. Besides your own, what is another favorite small business?
Does it count if I say the Dean's List podcast?
Sure. Love it. Oh my God. Well, thank you. I'm very flattered. Okay. If you could instantly acquire one new skill, instantly, what would it be?
Ability to fly.
It's a popular one, Laura. It's a popular one. People say that one. Okay. If you could time travel to any period in history, which era would you visit?
1920s.
Okay. Also, that's a popular time. So that's you're falling in line here. Okay, and if you weren't doing
just another of the roaring 20s.
I know,
I feel
right,
like we're currently going through another era of roaring 20s.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, yeah, that's true. If you weren't doing this, what you're doing right now, what else would you be doing?
Being an artist.
Okay.
Painting.
Okay. All right. Couple more questions left. So I want us to look ahead. What can you share related to future plans for HeartSpace? And are there any new initiatives or projects that you're particularly excited about?
I'm actually planning on bringing these teachings to Europe as well. I feel like California and the United States in general, all of this kind of information is getting very popular here.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to start, just bringing all of this back home, starting with Romania and then, other countries in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when it comes to my trainings, I've just signed the contract with, I've just joined the Soul app, SOL. And so if anybody signs up on the app, they'll be able to do live sessions with me on that platform as well. What else? And I just plan on growing and expanding and bringing, really reaching out to more and more of our corporate environments to our offices too.
Definitely needs it, for sure. I would agree with that. All right. And what advice would you give to someone who's perhaps starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Don't listen to what anybody else is telling you. It's always good to, look for advice and opinions and to kind of collect data.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, always follow your heart. And even when those moments when it might, and you might be getting these kinds of remarks, even from people who are very close to you, such as family members or even your best friend, they might tell you, "What, are you insane? Are you like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Just follow your dream. We only have, this life in this body, and we really deserve to give our dreams a chance, and nobody else will do that for you. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah. That was like, I think that was a really good billboard just now, Laura. Yeah, I do. I like it. I think we should frame that one. Okay. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you were hoping I would, or is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we did not talk about?
I actually feel like we covered a lot, and I absolutely loved your questions. And not only that, but I really love your curiosity in all of this. So yeah.
Appreciate you. Okay, so I want you to share your socials just so everyone knows how to find you, and we'll make sure we link it all. And then perhaps we can go into amazing breathwork exercise, which is such a treat.
Everyone can find me on Instagram at my Instagram nickname is, I think, the Laura Ivan. So THE Laura Ivan. And then again, my website is www.heartspace.care, CARE. And there's a form on the website. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can fill out that form, or you can send me a direct message on Instagram.
Perfect. And also good to keep eyes on her Instagram page, because she's very frequently doing different events, mostly in the LA area, but keep tabs, because you may be able to attend something in the presence of Laura, which would be amazing for you. So yes, definitely follow for all of her loveliness and all of her love. Okay, now I will stop talking and I will become the student. And I will let Laura tell us what to do.
Okay, Alison and everyone else watching and curious to try out this breathing exercise, you are supposed to, you can either keep your eyes closed or open, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
And just place your hands over your heart, or just one hand, or at least the tips of your fingers. Just really connect with your heart. Make sure you feel your heart's beat. And start taking deep breaths in and out through the nose at a pace that's slower, a little slower than usual, and deeper. Start breathing in and out through the nose. Really feel your chest, your lungs, your belly expand with each breath. And as you inhale, imagine that the air is flowing in and out through your heart or chest area. And just make sure that the amount of inhale is equal to the amount of inhale. What I like to do is to count to 5. So as you inhale, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At a steady pace, deep breaths, imagining that the air is flowing in and out through your heart.
So cool. I love it. So how long does someone do that for?
For as long as you can. I like to do it about 5 minutes when I wake up. I like to do it during the day. Sometimes I do it even during my Zoom calls, or if I feel a little triggered or off balance. Sometimes I remember to do it.
Yeah, I should tell my team at the other job. This is something that we should do when we're all feeling a little triggered. I think that's a great tip. Laura, that was amazing. I'm excited. I'm excited to utilize this and tell you things that are coming from it. So thank you so much. Thank you for being on the Dean's List. I appreciate you so much. You're amazing. And I hope you had fun.
Alison, I had so much fun. Thank you so much for the invite. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Dean's List. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated, and follow us on Instagram at official_Dean's List and YouTube at It's Official Dean's List. I'm your host, Alison Dean. Until next time.